house is actively sinking.
Wow. Coming up on Gut Job.
This is gonna be not any regular gut job.
No.
I really just want to tear this whole house down.
Calm down.
Ayanna may know me better than anyone else in this world because she's my partner.
Wow.
All right, yes, sir. It is your boy, Kevin Bourne, also known as KEB, the boss from shiftermagazine.com. And today I'm being joined by someone that may be familiar to a lot of you guys, especially if you guys watch HGTV Canada. He's a longtime host and personality on this station. He's also the host of a brand new show coming up on the network called Gut Job. Also a former CFL player, former Grey Cup champion, as some people may not know. And apparently he's also a dope MC, as far as I hear. Apparently he might have some bars, I don't know. But I've heard through the grapevine that, maybe he might be a bit of a dope MC. But once again, none other than the brand new host of Gut Job on HGTV Canada. I'm talking about Sebastian Clovis.
Thank you so much. What an introduction, sir. I enjoyed that.
So is that true? Are we being joined by a dope MC, rapper, all that kind of stuff?
Listen, man. I grew up in the hip hop culture. I grew up in the era, man. I think we all grew up freestyling around the cafeteria table, and so
playing dominoes.
Exactly. So yeah, basically, what I'm trying to say is, I got bars.
Definitely, you know what? Yeah, you come from that. You come from that generation, so absolutely, man. Now, quickly before we jump into the interview, I was going through social media, and so I went to high school with one of your former teammates, Luke Mullender.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
boy.
Yeah. So I was pouring through socials, and I saw you guys together. I was like, oh, it's a small world. So shout out to Luke.
Yeah, man. He was a great guy. I'm Sog, I should say.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, incredible football player. I played with him actually over at the Riders, and he played with my brother as well. He was a great defensive end and a really great community guy right now. So shout out to Luke.
Shout out to Luke. Now let's get in. We're going to talk about the new show, but first I want to kind of, for people that may not be familiar, how did you make that transition from going from football to kind of, doing what you're doing now? Was it something that you kind of always on the side for you, or something you kind of picked up after the game? Like, how did you make that transition from being, a player to getting into just what you're doing right now?
It's a funny question because, I get asked all the time, how did I transition from football into building? And that wasn't the difficult transition at all. I started building when I was 14 years old. I built every summer, apprenticed, kind of every summer. After high school, I took a year off and I built for the entire year before I went on my football scholarship. And then every year back from university, I'd build. And so it was a natural thing after I finished my professional career. I instantaneously just got back into building, and, tools had changed, the technology had changed. I went and got licensed and just started my own business. The difficult transition, my friend, was into TV. That was the hard one, because that was the one that I had no experience in, and the opportunity kind of just came out of nowhere. And, I had to not just build, but I had to communicate on a national, international level. And so there was a lot of, looking inside, checking my own fears, and then getting comfortable with who I am and what my voice is, and being able to speak. And so there have been a lot of transitions, but going from football to building, that was the easy one.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because looking from the outside in, just kind of seeing the progression over the years, I would have never thought that was something you had to kind of progress into, because you always have that good, just kind of camera presence, just as a personality.
Well, I appreciate that. But it's not true though. I think that, I was a very quiet person growing up, and, being asked to get on camera where there's lights pointing at you and there's a microphone on you, and you have to kind of control the scene and narrate and navigate these stories and these emotions of homeowners, and communicate what we're doing from a build perspective and from a design perspective to the layman's. That was something that took a lot of time and a lot of training. It took a lot of mirror work, I'll tell you the story, man. When it first presented itself as something that was going to happen, it was very fast. I was building, and somebody found me, and it was 7 days between that person said, "Hey, do you want to have your own TV show, or do you want to get on TV?" And 7 days after that, I was on camera filming. There was no time to think about it. But there was definitely a moment when I just had to look up to the sky and and kind of look up like, this is the challenge you're going to put in front of me. You're going to make me talk in front of all these people. And I don't like doing that. I'm not going to back down, but you're a funny one type of thing. And so it's been a challenge this entire time. And I feel like if I can find the strength to communicate on this level, then there's nothing I can't do, because this was really was one of the hardest things.
Now, in some of your some of the previous shows that you were on with HGTV Canada, you were kind of just a part of a cast. You were, maybe had like more of a background role. Now, this is the first time you're actually like leading this series, correct?
To a degree, to a degree. Yeah, I've been a part of many great ensemble shows. Home to Win and Family Home Overhaul. I was lucky enough to work with the talented Sam Pin, who is my co-host on Save My Reno. But my first show, Tackle My Reno, I was the lead guy on that show as well. And so this, I would say, is the first time that this is the first time in a good long time that I've led my own show. And I'm very happy for how that's happened. But I'll say this, sir, although I am leading the show, I took the opportunity with this show to bring in as many people as I can from my life to help me create some of these spaces. And so, I have my buddy Some Artist coming in, he's an incredible graffiti artist who's very well known. He's come in and done some pieces for me. I got my friend Peter coming in doing a bunch of steel work with me. I have people that I've plucked from my contact list that make appearances on the show, and they're a part of kind of my ensemble crew and the people who help make the vision come true. We're all a part of it. It's very much a team effort. And so while I am the only major voice, I'm not the only voice.
Now let's talk about the actual concept, because obviously you've been on other shows on the station, and HGTV Canada has had so many different kind of shows. Like, how does the concept of Got Job differ from some of the other ones that you've been on, and just some of the other shows that HGTV currently has on its roster?
I think Gut Job, it differs from some of the other shows that I've been in that it's very authentic. It's unapologetically construction based. I think in the past we've been kind of very focused on design and just speaking about how the design, makes things work this way and function that way. And we do that as well, but we are unapologetically in there with the tools and showing people how we're building. We're doing adventurous things with our custom builds that we're creating. And I think that it's very authentic to how life actually is for me. And I think that's one of the ways that it differs. We're just trying to tell beautiful stories of the emotional experience of being a homeowner and going through a renovation. And we're also trying to create an experience for the viewers. HGTV was so gracious enough to really allow me to kind of sculpt and create this show and executive produce this show. And one of the things that we were really focused on doing was creating an experience for the viewership, so that they could feel the emotions of the homeowners. They could feel the tempo changes when something tragic happens, or when something amazing and light and happy happens. We want it to be an audio experience. You'll notice on this show more than any of my other shows, you'll notice the beats, you'll notice the music, you'll notice the sounds, the sound effects that are happening and taking place. It's an audio experience. And we have an incredible DP with Joe Queenan, who has just shot this show so beautifully, so cinematically. And so the way the show looks, the way it sounds, and the way that I'm narrating these stories, I think just is going to separate this show from any of the other shows that I've done in the past.
Mm-hmm. And were there any particular like renovations over the course of the season that you really were like, man, like they were really proud of, that maybe people can kind of look forward to? Like some that you're like, man, like I can't believe you just did that. And any of those kind of moments that you had over the season?
Oh, there were so many. for me to choose one would be impossible. I'd have to choose a top 5. But there was one episode where we brought a shipping container in. We wanted to change it into a photo studio / yoga studio. So we had this 3,000-pound shipping container that we had to get off of a truck, and we had to get it over top of a concrete pad that we poured in and set that into position just perfectly so we could cut it open and modify it. And it was, for us builders who we've been doing this, it was a difficult experience. I mean, it was nothing that we knew we couldn't do. But I'll tell you what, one of the fun things for me was looking over at the TV production crew and seeing the blood just drained out of their faces with this 3,000-pound shipping container hanging off the back of the truck that we're welding up and trying to get it to slide into position. I think it was one of the few moments I've ever had on TV that when that shipping container finally did land into its final position, the entire crew, the entire build team, the entire TV production team, all started clapping together in unison, because it really was a moment of triumph.
Mm-hmm. Now the words "consider this." What are those words like? The significance of those words, because that's kind of like a consistent thing for you. What's behind the words "consider this"? Consider this,
man. I feel like I say that word 8, 9, 10 times a day. As a builder, especially a builder who's always trying to do custom jobs and build custom furniture and custom pieces, you have to consider so many things, and so a lot of the things that we're doing on this show is the first time I've ever done them. It's the first time it's ever been done quite this specific way, and so you have to consider all of the different variables. And so it's kind of a game between me and anyone who's working with me. Is before we do anything, we sit back and I say, wait, hold on, consider this. If we put this window here and the sun moves from the east to the west on the south side, and there's a chimney in the way, it's going to cast a shadow over here. So maybe we should put whatever it is that we're doing in a different location, and then somebody else says, well, consider this, so it's kind of the consider this game is something that we play all the time. And it's, we want to consider the most amount of options possible before we take any course of action, so that we're not surprised at the end. Because as you know, renovations are very expensive, materials are very expensive, and our time is money. And if we go all the way down a pathway and we haven't considered everything, and we get hit at the end with, we didn't think of that, it's a major problem, not just for us, but also for the clients. And so before we do anything, consider this.
Do you have a consider this tattoo anywhere?
I haven't considered that.
That'd be a good tattoo idea. Consider this. But you just talked about some things over the season that you tried, like for the very first time. Like, what gives you that confidence and audacity? Because you're doing things on TV, you're dealing with someone's property. The margin for error is kind of small. Like, what gives you that confidence or that audacity to say, I'm going to try this outrageous thing that I've never done before on TV with somebody's property?
Yeah. That's actually a really good question. I don't know where that courage comes from. It comes from experience, I suppose. Although I may not have done some of these very specific things, the principles of building are the fundamentals of building are deep inside. As a builder, I know that so long as we build everything plumb, level, square, we're always working off a reference point, and that we're going to be okay. We understand the thresholds, and the thresholds and the tolerances for mistakes. And we also know how to make sure that the things that we're building can last for a lifetime. We know how to fasten things. We know what type of fasteners, what type of glues, what type of joinery we have to use in order to make sure that things are going to stand the test of time. And so, kind of with those fundamentals in hand, we're really able to paint outside the box in terms of some of the designs that we go in. And we definitely swing for the fences. In order to be on my team, you have to be cool with the idea that we're not going to do things the way that other people do them. And we're going to push the design envelope. We're going to push ourselves to create things that just haven't been seen before, because I think that's where, that's where uniqueness lies, and that's where greatness lies.
Mm-hmm. And just a final question, any advice for, new homeowners, current homeowners, to make sure they don't end up on an episode of Gut Job? Any kind of advice just for a new homeowner or just current homeowner? Anything they should look for at all?
Yeah, for sure, man. With this show, this show is to answer that question, let me say this. This show has a real balance on it in terms of, we have some stories that are really dark, that are really difficult situations that homeowners are in. We also have a handful of situations that are just really bright and beautiful and happy. And so, that juxtaposition, I think, is an important key feature of this show in general. Is what's going to make it an exciting experience for the viewers. Now, those stories that were a little bit darker, very often those are coming from homeowners who bought houses that they thought were one thing and then ended up being something else altogether, just having no ending of kind of problems behind the walls. And so for people who are buying homes or who are thinking about buying a home, I would definitely say what you need to do is jump online and research some of the things that you need to be looking into that keep a home healthy. You don't just buy a home based on how clean it is or how white the walls have been painted. You need to be able to go into a house and look at the eaves troughs and see where the eaves troughs have been draining for the last years, to see if the foundation is okay. You need to understand, to look at slopes in the floors and be able to see the caulking, be able to see, how the washrooms are plumbed, or the bathtubs are kind of laid, to make sure they're all laid level. Water's not getting into places they shouldn't be getting into. And so I think jumping online and looking into some of the things that you could spot as a homeowner before you make those purchases, so that you're not just relying on a home inspector, or you're not just relying on your contractor buddy to come through and look for you. You can learn these things yourselves online. So I think a little bit of education goes a long way.
That's a great place to end. Thank you so much for that advice. Do you have any pre-written bars at all we can get before before you go? Anything pre-written? Anything? If not, it's okay.
I got lots pre-written, but hip hop is a hobby. I'm here for HGTV, and I'm here for the renovation thing, baby.
All right, we have to figure out when another show that kind of blends blends some hip hop and some renovations. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and wishing you all the best with the show. For those who are watching, the show premieres Wednesday, April 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on HGTV Canada. Once again, this is Sebastian Clovis. Thank you so much for your time, and wishing you all the best with the new show.
Thanks a lot.